I'm Jeff Murrah. I want to welcome you to True Texas History, where today we are going to talk about the Pastry War in Texas. And when I mention the Pastry War, I am not talking about a giant food fight. This was a war that took place between France and Mexico, and it ended on this day, March the 9th, 1839. You may wonder, well, what does this have to do with Texas? More than you realize. First of all, let's get into the origins of the war and what was the incident that triggered it. At one point in the 1820s, the president of Mexico went ahead and decided to depose one of the local governors, a fellow by the name of Lorenzo de Zavala. That name sound familiar? He later played an important role in Texas independence, but prior to that, he had been a governor of one of the Mexico's states. And when he was removed from power, there was a lot of unrest as he had a lot of loyalty amongst the military, and there was fighting in the streets, and things got out of hand. Some of the soldiers also ended up getting drunk, and in one of their drunken fits, or of course these days, in 2021, they would call it a protest, but in one of their moments of dissatisfaction, they ransacked a French pastry shop. The pastry owner was the shop owner was very upset, and there were some other shops that were damaged in the ransacking of the neighborhood, which was located a little bit outside of Mexico City. And he wrote a letter to the Emperor of France. It was a few years, but the Emperor of France decided to go ahead and intervene. And he sent the French fleet to Mexico. They went ahead and blockaded the coast, opened fire on San Juan de Ula, which was a fort protecting the city of Veracruz, which was a main Mexican port. Now, when the French took action, it was 1839, and the Republic of Texas was already in existence. Now, this was one of those fortunate things for us because it kept the Mexican fleet tied down and prevented further incursions into Texas. Now, although it prevented further incursions into Texas, there were still some people that went ahead and took advantage of the situation and started smuggling. And some of these Mexican smugglers would buy goods in the Republic of Texas and sneak them into Mexico, try to sneak past the French ships. Now, the Republic of Texas did not want France to blockade our ports, so they decided to take action and set up some patrols to keep that from happening. And one of the Mexican vessels that was loaded up with flour disposed of their flour outside of Corpus Christi at a particular place on the beach, and to this day it is known as Flour Bluff. So it got its name going all the way back to Mexican smugglers trying to smuggle goods into Mexico during the Pastry War. Now, the Pastry War also set the stage for some other things to happen. Mexico agreed to pay a particular amount of money to France, which they didn't do completely, and that set the stage for another French intervention in the 1860s. That's when you have Maximilian coming on the scene. But the other thing that happened after the loss of the Republic of Texas from Mexico, the leader of Mexico, Santa Anna, his stock went down. He was not looked at very favorably. Now, he lived a little bit outside of Veracruz on his farm, and when all this was going on, he went ahead and took the lead in defending Veracruz from those French that were bombarding the port. Now, although he didn't win the battle, he actually lost the battle, didn't do anything to stop the bombardment. His courage in doing so raised his stock in Mexico, so he was once again in a leadership position. So, although this is one of those Mexican history things, the Pastry War did involve Lorenzo de Zavala. That is how Flower Bluff got its name, and it did contribute to one of the other political rises of Santa Anna. And these are pieces that do influence Texas, and Maximilian and that whole episode will play a role later on as well, which I'll talk about in a future episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to leave them below. I'll be glad to get to them. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.